Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanye now, Recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
It's a good evening, I suppose, to all of you, our viewers. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise, sitting in this chair to ensure that I also chair or guide this discussion with the three panelists that we have. Around this time, 7, we stream live on our social media pages. That's the Alternative Digital on Facebook and also Alternative Digital on YouTube. Gladly today, we are tackling Parliament itself and on whether or not it has delivered to the expectations of citizens. With me on my immediate left is Honorable Awich Pola. He is the director at the NRM Secretariat in charge of external affairs. Next to him is Professor Rogers Bargayomwe. That's the other week we had Honorable Awich Pola saying that he's again to protect in the first place. Incidentally, 2 of them are OBs from Montare School. One is a pure NRM, the other one is a pure anti-NRM. They're from the same school. Extreme end, extreme left, if I should say, is Mr. Joseph Ochieno. A UPC diehard, but also a gentleman that looks forward to leading UPC, save for what is happening, and of course he still continues to have legal battles against Honorable Akena and UPC leadership. By and large, we are here to dissect our topic of discussion of trying to dig deeper about the performance of Parliament itself, on whether or not it has lived to the expectations of all of us as citizens of this country. I would ask Honorable Awich Pola to begin with greetings, and also he could summarize for us how his week has been. And it's going to be the same norm when it goes to Professor Rogers Bargayomwe and also Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Honorable Awich Pola, say hello to our viewers and also summarize to them how your week has been, both a local week and an international week.
Thank you so much. Greetings to our viewers. In your words, you say hello. Hello to our viewers. It is always good to be here every Friday at this time so that we share issues that affect our society, our country, and the world. So I'm always honored to be here. I try to put aside everything I do to be here. Before I go to my summary of the week, international and national, you made mention that me and Rogers are from the Great Montare School. That is true. But you made mention that Rogers is totally anti-NRM. I don't think so.
Okay.
unless he confesses
Okay,
now.
he will speak for himself.
But me, what I take Rogers to be in good faith is that Rogers is behaving like the prophet in Old Testament. The prophet in Old Testament used to tell the kings the truth. Turn away from your sins. If you don't turn away from your sins, God will not punishing the king, but the kingdom. And remember, it would be like now Israel is being fought. By then, Israel has a kingdom. The other kingdoms are around. So please.
Israel is not being fought.
Now, the thing is that the feeling of the prophet was that should you do the wrong thing, the society will feel the repercussions. Unfortunately, and I like to inform Rogers that if you get a non-clear-headed cadres, the overzealous cadres, they may misunderstand you. And it used to happen in the Old Testament. Like in the case of John the Baptist, when he kept telling the king, when the king had taken somebody's wife, the daughter had produced with the illegal wife at her birthday. When she danced well, she was asked what she wanted. And she went to the mother and said, Mommy, Daddy has asked me that I ask anything in the world. Then the excited Kada told the daughter
the head
that
of the king.
Tell him that you want the head of John the Baptist on this plate. Bring it to me. So sometimes if you don't get clear-headed cadres, he may not understand you, but I hope I'm clear-headed. And I hope that is why I understand him. That's why I understand him, not to be what you think.
Honorable, but he might ask for the king's head.
So,
so
that is my understanding of Rogers. And I know not only Rogers, there are many outside there who make criticisms in good faith to make sure things are correct and to be sure, especially among the progressive intellectuals, like Professor Mwambusia. So these are intellectuals in their intellectual world who make critical criticisms, and they can be misunderstood. So unless Rogers says I'm wrong, I have not yet reached the point of taking Rogers as anti-NRM. It's just progress. It's just a progressive person who is making a good criticism.
But not NRM.
Well, it may not be an NRM, but it's not anti-NRM.
He's even NRM historical by all circumstances.
So that is what I understand about Rogers. And I know there are many others outside who make comments in good faith. Just like John the Baptist would say, please, King.
Change on this, change.
It will have repercussions. So I take his criticisms in good faith. But he's here to say, if he's saying, Obi, you are lying, me, I'm anti-NRM. So he's free. But I had understood him to be that. Now back to
saying anti-NRM or a member of NRM, which is which?
Anti. He said, we are all boys. I am NRM and historical.
And
Rogers is
and he's not NRM. And he's not NRM.
He's anti your policies. He's anti what you do as government. That is
better, but not anti-NRM.
No, okay.
So that's what I have to say. Okay. And I am saying this because I don't want those with critical criticisms to be misunderstood. Because Rogers is not alone. And I take their criticism is good faith, because sometimes, not sometimes, all times they criticize and even offer solutions. Somebody who is pulling you down doesn't even bother to offer another solution.
What am I?
Now that I've taken on the role of explaining who is who and who is what. So okay, so who is he and what is he?
But you have brought it. No, if you ask me, the Congress is in a different political party, and so being in a different political party. Not Rogers.
No, he's a chairperson, a national chairman, Labour Party. Proceed.
So do you want to talk or you want me to talk?
To guide you on... what he stands for.
So my understanding of the Congress is that he is in his party, and his view and consistent position, especially coming from a party who has ever held power twice, he strongly now believes that, one, power was lawfully robbed from him. That is his feeling. And he still believes that talking of history as the basis to reclaim power. So he wants the power. Now, within that, the tactics and the strategy to achieve an end, he can employ many tactics. As long as he gets the end. The end is regaining State House. So whatever methods he uses in there is tactical. The overall strategy is there. So that overall strategy now defines his tactical behaviors towards that. If it meant looking like he presents himself to the viewers or to the electorate as being anti, so be it. But his overall aim is having back power. And which, if he gets it democratically, I have no problem with it. In fact, the only thing I would have is for how I do better so that the people keep with me, so that they don't go to him. So that they don't go to him. But if he does it democratically, I have no problem with it. That would be a weakness on my side for my inability to keep the people so that they don't go to him. Now, about the week, personally, this time I spent a lot of my week up country. From Monday, I came back on Friday. I was up country. I'd gone to bury my former clan leader, whom I replaced because I'm now the clan leader. And my clan leader had climbed to a level of a speaker of the Parliament of Lango. The Parliament of Lango consists of clan leaders who compose themselves into a council under the king called Nyachi. So this guy had climbed up to a speaker level. So the highlight was that we took the body to the Parliament of Lango for a resolution. So he entered into the books, and as a good person who did work a lot for Lango, and it was good. And we met the king. He was in attendance. The Wonyachi was in attendance, and he had very kind comments about me. I didn't know he follows what happens on the TV. He's a very elite, maybe one of the most elite traditional leader in the country, because he's an engineer and a PhD holder of engineering. He's not only an engineer, but a PhD holder. So he's a very elite traditional leader, and he made fair comment to me. I was really humbled, because he says he has been following me on the TV, and in his own words he said, I have wisdom. And he prayed that we also mention about it, which I like to mention, that the infrastructure in the kingdom is poor. Government had made commitment to have it built. He actually, in his own words, said we are living in a mud here. So you keep telling government that the government should keep its promise so that the structure is built for the kingdom. It was a government commitment. So we did that. And so, having been up country a lot, I therefore didn't interact so much with the national issues, because we went for burial finally in the, deep in the village in Utuka district. And then I came back just over the weekend. Internationally, I am disappointed. I'm disappointed that the week was started off with a war of very high magnitude, destructions of lives, property. It's as if, we are the only species that manufacture weapons to destroy ourselves. Dogs don't do it. Monkeys don't do it. Cows don't do it. It is human being who deliberately plan how to destroy itself. If you see the kind of bombing, it's like, are we really human beings? Yet, the world is saying that after Second World War, when there was a lot of death, there was a resolution that never again. There was a resolution that we are going to have a world, a rule-based world. A rule-based world means we have conventions, we have covenants, we have laws to follow, we have courts in the world. Never should we ever have war as a means of resolving conflicts. But we are back to it. It's no longer a a rule-based world. Nobody cites any law, nothing. Some people attack each other or attack the other one. It's crazy. It's so disheartening. It's so bad that we have taken back the world to even pre-human society. It's as if we are animals. So I'm very disheartened by what is happening around the world. And actually, as a matter of fact, I have a headache. Because I am one person who has been at global level, a world judge for 8 years in Geneva. And I thought I had seen the civil world, the civilized world, which will follow rules, conventions, negotiations, and covenants, and all this. And we are now back to nothing. Nothing. It's might. If you're strong, fine. If you're weak, so I'm really disappointed.
Okay, those are words of Honorable Wichpola, and of course a former diplomat. And once he speaks, that's pure his area also of expertise. To Professor Bargayomwe, who is also equally conversant with international politics. Proceed from there, sir.
Thank you, Norman, and my colleagues. I take the honor and to thank my mentor for defending me, because to me, with NRM, I would say, by the way, because of circumstances of actually my birth and everything, I'm definitely a historical member of NRM, but an auditor at that, because with time I've seen a lot of Kawukumi being welcome in NRM and continuously with a disregard of values, and on that I will never, I keep criticizing, and I'm saying let's do the right thing because risks were made. And in a way, I've noticed that our fathers, they cannot tell, somehow they cannot tell their colleague the right thing now. All of them are full of fear for him, that we felt some of us should come into this step and say we have to do things, because now it's no longer about their generation. It's no longer about their time. They played their part, by the way, but now it is about the future, our future, and that of our children mostly. So actually, I think they look at us and think we are bastards, we are not their children, because if they were in our position, they would have got arms, especially in this period. They would have started in Kampala. They wouldn't have even gone to Ruwero if those guys were of our age. So that's why when these feelings, I become emotional when I feel some things are going wrong. But I'm a good auditor, and I tell, like my mentor here, I say NRM has very good men, like Major Wichpola, and he can be a president. They have presidential candidates and even like for me, what my party, Labour Party, thinks about rotational leadership, will believe, for example, if you told me the leadership should go to North Uganda, I would recommend a man like Wichpola to be a president of this country. First of all, he has, and I know because he mentored me for a long time, he's been at the middle. I mean, he was in the West for a long time. He has interacted with these, I don't know why they fear him, these generals, the NRM people. He's been our chairman, and I'm telling you, chairman of those gorillas, including those ones in Rwanda. And why don't they trust him? They've mentored him. And for me, I believe it is time for another region. So then, if you bring people like a witch, even the next day I will be
Prime Minister.
I'll be back. I don't know what he will give, but I would. I would
like
be.
He's lobbying.
I would be. What I'm showing you,
in the event.
all political parties, including my Congress party here, they are good people. They are good Ugandans who are not being utilized, because I think the system now is defective. We need to go back to the dialogue and then pick the cream, like it was in 86. If you see 86 to 96, It's a cream of Uganda across political board that were in charge of the country. So I've clarified that I'm not
Historical.
I'm historical NRM, and no one will remove it from me. These Kawukumis who have even come 5 years, 10 years, they cannot even trace their historical part more than me. So all these, and the most radical, by the way, are these ones of 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, all coming in now to spoil the good party. So, and they're at the helm of the party. So what I'm showing you is that let us, NRM has a chance to audit itself and move forward. The good of the week, I will also go to the international scene. The international scene has lessons even for Uganda. You know, that we, like Honorable Witch said, we should continuously embrace negotiations. This, I mean, until for me, I believe the Almighty is God alone. All of us have to continuously negotiate and dialogue with humility, because definitely the Iran leadership, which most of them were killed, those radical ones, they took a radical position, and by the time they thought of maybe negotiation, it was too late. Because, and I think it was this kind of negotiation, and fairly my brother would also no, but it was, I think, the time of Tito Okello when these people started negotiating, but with an intention of not negotiating. And that's why also I blame, it seems we have people who negotiate with an intention of not negotiating, because that's only discredit I give to the US. They took a message as if they are going to negotiate, and then these people relaxed out of their bunkers and they thought it is time to negotiate, but it was too late. So I'm also talking to the NRM leadership that let it not be too late for them when they think they did it to the Titos, and for us in the holy books we know you reap what you sow. So just like Okellos were hoodwinked that there is negotiation, it was too late for them. So I would tell my dear people of the NRM to dialogue. Actually, there is a common word these days I say it, chiyamba mwe. It is no longer a favor to the citizen, it is a favor to the people with the leadership, because they have a high stake, because the resources, they have the resources, they have then the way it is, there is nowhere to run. There is that movie, Nowhere to Run. We all have to talk from here, and it is the time. If they are to pretend, they don't want, like he talked of radical people, when you say something and they don't want to listen, then it will be too late, like for the Iran leadership, and we lost about 10 leaders at the same time. That is, and you know what happens is, like in Iran, and that's why I don't support the American side of doing things, because Iran is going now even to deteriorate into a terrorist state, because it will have no leadership. Somehow that leadership which we saw, the Bible even says that the people get a leader they deserve. It is what the Iranian deserved. And somehow I also say that the leaders we have in NRM and other is what Ugandans deserve. But if it is messed up, then we are going to be like Iran. Iran now is irreversibly going to be a broken state. And I don't want Uganda to go to that level. Those who can speak out, let's leave our arrogancy, let's start dialoguing, let's start having this conversation, and not have the lessons are for us there in the international world. And I think God is like, if you have eyes, see. If you can pick a lesson, pick it. So that's how my week is, and I'm sorry, I would say I'm glad they are seeing. They could have a time to reflect the leadership, the way the king sent you. Now I'm also sending you to the leadership of the NRM, Honorable Witch. Let them reflect on what is happening to the world, and repent or cause a national dialogue. So we don't want it to be too late for them.
You know, when you mention repenting, you sound spiritual, as if they are sinners. Anyhow, let me go to Mr. Joseph Ochieno to summarize for us his week and, of course, the local week and international week.
Yeah. Since I now have the privilege to partially repeat, I'll say, first of all, I actually come from Mwiri, and it's the most successful school in this country. By every yardstick and every measure. And I'm saying it deliberately. I normally repeat it, and I'm very proud of it, but my pride is really as a matter of emphasis that lessons be learned. The school is reviving thanks to OBs predominantly. The school sunk under NRA, but we are reviving it, and in the last performance it's really come up and is coming back. Contrary to that, you look at Ntare School, which really has been the ruling school for the last 40 years.
Both here and in Rwanda.
Disastrously ruling this country. So to their credit, they now can boast of having leaders from 2 different countries.
For a long time.
For a long time, Maxine.
For a long time.
You add.
And for a long time, both of them almost quasi-dictators. But whether that is credit to Ntare.
They are Democrats, freedom fighters.
I like. I only laughed because Comrade Awichi's smile was whether to beat me or not, but it was. I like that. Anyway.
Democrats, freedom fighters.
Yeah. So I see Ntare, unfortunately, as a school that UPC substantially equipped and brought up to stage in the early 60s, but also as a school which has now been part of the national problem. So it has bred very fantastic leaders, but it has also bred critically, if history is to go through, it will find that Ntare has got extremely terrible record. Apart from the top leaders, meaning Museveni and Kagame, there are some people from Ntare who've done massive damage to this country. But they've been net contributors to this country, and I'm proud to associate with them. As it happens, Rugunda is conflicted because he's both Mwiri and Ntare, so he's not included there. So that is cool. Number 2, not to be outdone, UPC is a Republican political party, but also purely Republican, as Ochieno. And then 3, we Jopadola are Republicans. You know, we're not monarchists, and I'm sure the same with Lango. But that said, we are the most, as Jopadola, the most organized tiny nation state in this country. And I happen to have had the privilege of beating NRA traffic to be here in time, having just arrived from Tororo, celebrating 100 years of the head of a cultural institution, Kwaradona, meaning grandfather in that political, in that cultural terms, Moses Stephen Awar, who hit 100. He's amongst the most revered cultural leaders. He's amongst the most respected cultural leaders. He's amongst the most accomplished Ugandan citizens, including as a public service, as a public servant. So, very proud to associate with him. I have even some extended family relationship with him, but in a structured way rather than blood. But I think even part of it comes. But that's not the point. So, so that was the day before yesterday. They had a fantastic event to mark that, and Mr. Museveni was represented by Captain Alupo. Is she Captain or Major? He's deputy. He's vice president. So that from home, I went late. But I was delighted. I was there on Saturday and was with him yesterday. And I think there's something good about this country that if only we throw away politics and focused on our communities, focused on the things that bring us together, focused on our culture, and discarded some of the nuances sometimes just within communities, religious differences, which clan differences, which clan are you from, and things like that. And unfortunately, which political organization Comrade Richard, don't know about your cultural institution. I hope your cultural institution is not yes, yes to Mr. Museveni, so they're therefore being political. That I hope that these cultural institutions can be institutions that bring together all communities and all their citizens, regardless of their political affiliations, and there's the space for people to breathe. That said, I was very saddened as part of breaking news on Saturday when it became apparent that this, I was going to use a very strong word, but I don't want to, I still have to go to end up in Washington every now and again. Donald Trump has just caused one of the most disastrous beginnings for the world, and my biggest disappointment is that the world is quiet. Donald Trump, who detested Barack Obama, still detests him, purely because of identity, somebody who's known to be a chauvinist, somebody who's got very interesting records with women, somebody who is, you know, the Epstein files, and then you go about these elite things and how some of these privileged elite, predominantly, thankfully, white elite men, you know, use power and use women. Thankfully, my brother Barack Obama is not mentioned there. Clinton is. And these are things that the fourth estate, like yourselves, particularly on the African continent, don't mention. They should. Trump picks the Venezuelan leader like a tiny little fish from the riverside. Trump subjects Iran to crude war. Trump has now just subjected Iran to another massively crooked, unacceptable war. But most importantly, shockingly, and Roger, I don't necessarily particularly agree with you very much, but I don't want us to make it a subject of conversation. I don't see what's wrong the Iranians have done rather than being progressively left revolutionary political organization and a country. They simply happen to hold a political view contrary to that of America. America is an excess capitalist establishment. Iran is not, and that should not be a sin. That these guys crossed the line by killing the Iranian supreme leader. I have been in this game for quite some time. If you asked me 2 days ago that the Americans would kill Khomeini, I would definitely bet completely 100% no. But so it's very, very shocking. How much the rest of the world don't see how terribly dangerous this whole thing is. I am shocked. I am sad that there are no young people in the streets of Kampala, in Nairobi, in Johannesburg, but instead I see some of our leaders seeking to justify Anglo-American push with the Israeli lobby to basically destabilize the world and really squeeze the world into a system that now makes it Anglo-America, Israel, and you're either with us or against us. I think it's completely unacceptable. If you then further then go ahead and talk about the implications and the economic implications in terms of the oil things and everything else, and watch the media, including my colleagues in the Al Jazeera, how almost like that's the most progressive non-Western media. But if you see how the whole media network are spinning this thing, that Iran and everything else bad, you know, Netanyahu, whom I saw before he became a leader as a very crude American white extremist Zionist kind of guy, together with Trump, what they're doing, these guys are becoming the policemen of the world. But quite to conclude, I don't know whether Mr. Museveni has issued a statement as head of this country. I don't know if Mr. Museveni and their group in East Africa have issued a statement. I don't know if the African Union has issued a statement on this thing. But most importantly, Mr. Museveni as chairman of the non-aligned movement. I'm saying this because of my things about politics. The world is realigning itself in a manner, and we are being realigned almost back to slavery. And the rest of us are actually quiet. The world is quiet, and the leaders are quiet, and Comrade Which, you're head of the external unit of the NRO political organization. These are things that we should be able to have a conversation. I'm genuinely surprised that even in the social media spaces where I am, I see people talk, and people almost like in my lower space to, you know, people are trying to outsmart one another by becoming experts on what Iran will do next and what Americans will be doing. But no, just 165 children in a school were just massacred. And there is a nonsense that I completely don't agree with, that some Africans are content with this. You know why? Because those children are Arabs from Persia, and the other powers are America and Israel, who allegedly Jewish. There is these things that we need to be able to tackle and tackle directly. Where would Jesus be? Which side? What would Jesus say? Jesus would absolutely not be on the side of Netanyahu and absolutely not on the side of Donald Trump. Just like I wonder where Jesus would be and what position he would take. Like last Monday, when I went to pray for Kizza Besigye and others, seeking peace, not because I was associated with Kizza, seeking peace, you know, and praying against suffering and stability in our country, as my young brother here says. And prayer services in Rubaga is cancelled, postponed. That is just within a week after we had come and wasted public money in Muchwini, because one, we've got matters after Mwanga, and two, we also now have matters after Idi Amin, and of course now we also have some matters under Mr. Museveni. Where does it stop? This new world order. But unfortunately for the rest of the world, Trump and Netanyahu are driving it, and the rest of the world leaders are doing nyongo nyongo. I have an interest, in the final point, I have got an interest from a British perspective, because I'm a net view opinion holder in Britain. I'm troubled that Keir Starmer is following the Trump. Britain normally would, but a Labour Prime Minister is following Trump like any other poodle, the way Blair, who was once upon a time a fantastic colleague of mine, followed Bush to go ahead and break and burn the Middle East.
Okay. I think because the other topic of discussion is, I shouldn't say it's quite lengthy, and I don't want to start on it and then we go for a break. I want to ask a former diplomat to answer in specifics, how special is Israel that it causes trouble in courts, and even the body where you used to sit, UN, seems to be, should we say, fearful, too afraid of how special is Israel, being a former diplomat, because they seem to be, indeed, are they God sent? Maybe we could begin from there.
I don't know whether the word special is what you're looking for. That how special is Israel? I mean, a country, the people. Suppose you ask Uganda, how special is Uganda, or how special is Mozambique? I wouldn't tell like the speciality of a country, but it is worth knowing the history of Israel. Maybe somebody would think how special it is. In brief, is that Middle East had been occupied by many communities. At least by the time the Roman went there, the Jews got scattered around the world. And when they got scattered around the world, in their tricky way, particularly in Europe, they became rich. And in Germany, they realized they were the money lenders. And then the Germans said, how are we indebted to these foreigners? So it caused uneasiness among the people. And therefore, when Second World War came, I may not agree with the extremist attitude of Hitler, but it is believed that Hitler now took this chance to say these people we are indebted to, and he killed many Jews. The number is doubtable. Others say 4 million, others doubt it, but he killed quite a substantial number. Now, note that before, the Old Testament was written in favor of a society called the Jews. So it had been peddled throughout the Old Testament that the Jews are the people of God in the Old Testament. to the extent that even Islam believe in the Old Testament. We only differ in the New Testament of Jesus. Therefore, a prime minister in London called Balfour is actually the one who created this problem, because he came up with what was called the Balfour Declaration. He was a prime minister then. He said, let us give Israel
These homeless people.
a country of their own. Guess what? Uganda was the first. They wanted to bring them to Karamoja. And then they found it wasn't viable. They ended up in Middle East as a small community among the Arabs. Now, if all of us were to go back to where we were in a migration system, the Langis came from Ethiopia. Are we going to go back to Ethiopia and claim land in Ethiopia? So that is what it is. So guys kept arming them, until America took over. So it was a British project. America took over. And here it is. About how special they are very sharp negotiators, sharp lobbyists, and also sharp blackmailers. Actually, in international arena that had been, you touch Israel interest or topics, like you touch a topic of, what do I call it? The group of, the group who support homosexuality. How would you call them? The gay community. Touching a topic about Israel would be as sensitive as touching a gay community.
You notice how lonely I am.
Because they have a strong lobbyist, they can even blackmail. So
they do, yeah.
that is what you call special. So they have the lobbying capacity, they have the capacity to spin anything, and they have money. They are rich. So, but under international law, they are supposed to be a state like others. The 193. And their getting stuck to America is so extreme that it's like part of the country. For example, on the question of Cuba, sanctions and embargo on Cuba, for 30 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 25, 29, 30, UN resolution has been voted in favor of Cuba, telling them that the sanction is illegal. The only dissenting vote is US and Israel. Even strong adherence like UK to America, strong alliance of NATO like France, strong alliance like Germany, they said, in the case of Cuba, we are not with you, but Israel can't, because they are like part of America. Maybe that is what explains your question of
how special. That they
how
can cause
special.
trouble and
How special is that?
And moves
they are part of an American district, so to say. Because how comes that even in an obvious question, like the Cuban question, 30 resolutions, it is them who. So meaning that they don't even have to see a reason in voting, they do that. However, what now worries me is that America, who believe to be the champion of liberal democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of all this, they don't even want you to speak now. So what are they championing? To the extent that even during voting on serious voting, they don't even want you, the countries, to vote freely. Really? They don't even want you to talk. I don't know whether Comrade Oceano has followed people talking in America, if they're talking against the war. I saw somewhere that the Iranian women were celebrating, the American women were demonstrating against. But I am soon saying that even Trump will ban demonstration. And that is the America we talk of freedom. Really? If they were there such a kind of freedom, then they would have entertained me, him, Rogers to talk freely, or even in America. On the question of slavery that he mentioned, I also share the same views, that if the world is going to be a world of might and power like this, some strong power, possibly America, will come up and declare all of us slaves.
And suppress others.
Maybe the only thing they're seeing now is China is still there, Russia will be there. But they will soon. So really, a society which we thought we have bypassed all this, we are heading to slavery. That's what I'm seeing. We are heading to slavery. And these guys could lead to extinction of humankind. And the champion of freedom of speech doesn't want you to talk. That we are the champion of freedom. But being champion of freedom, you keep quiet, don't talk. What a contradiction. I thought by now they would be hearing all our voices, how we are against the war. They would say, yes, it is your right to be against the war. How we are against the position of America. I said, yes, it is your freedom. We appreciate it is your right. You are free to be against the war. But the champion of freedom is against freedom.
If I may ask you what Mr. Joseph Ochieno mentioned, or rather wondered of, have you issued a statement or you're yet to make one? Because that's literally your docket. I mean you in particular as government, especially the way Mr. Museveni is the chairperson of non-aligned movement.
No, we haven't seen a party line approach to this. And we are yet to see other political parties around the world, because this appears like state-to-state actions. We can come in as a party where we see party line at play. For example, in the European Parliament recently, when NUP was invited as a political party, a non-state actor, in a forum where you're inviting state actor, the ambassador, in international law, you don't invite the state and invite state non-state actors. It's like you're inviting Uganda and you invite ADF. And then we said, let us talk. Are you at a peace talk? Are you adjudicating the matters of Uganda? Are you a court? So that doesn't work like that. Now, in that situation, for us, we're saying, since you're inviting a political party, why don't you invite us? Because for us, we're political parties like NUP, we can share, we can flex in quotes and quotes. We can talk, they can talk. So in this particular thing, I do not yet see the role of a political party to issue a statement.
Government.
But the government should. Government takes its position, and we have various layers where government takes its position. For example, on a resolution of UN, once it is taken, we are bound. On a resolution of African Union, once it is taken, we are bound. On a resolution of, we say, non-aligned, once it is taken, we are bound. But also at a national level, the government can take. So maybe I can help by checking what government is doing, but not at a party level.
Okay. I want to ask. I think we're going for a very, very short break, and coming back shortly for the three gentlemen to dissect for us on whether or not our Uganda Parliament is living to the expectations of all of us as citizens. Just a few seconds, we'll be back.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanye now, recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the science media cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
To that regard, we are now diving into that question on whether or not the Uganda Parliament is living to the expectations. One of the expectations, as per our laws, is the oversight role. The other one is, of course, budgeting and, of course, appropriation, and also legislation. Those are the most key three. You could also add the other role of approving appointments by the executive and some other basic roles, much as some of our colleagues in Parliament go ahead to, I don't know whether we call it acts of kindness, where they buy ambulances, some of them dig graves. I've seen some, there was some former MP, of course it's on record, Honorable Katoto, he was deep in the grave digging, digging a grave during some campaigns. There are so many people, they have done, I don't know whether I would term such activities as acts of humanity. But let's proceed from there, Honorable Awich Pola. When you look at our parliament, of course, let's look at the 11th Parliament, which is expiring in May. Do you think, in your view, it has lived to the expectations of citizens as a whole?
Okay, that's quite a direct question, and I will answer it directly. But permit me to clear something so that I move forward with clear mind. There's some comments which were made before. I'll just make first of all, a congressman says if Jesus came back, we don't know whether he would support it. He wouldn't support Israel. In fact, the current Israel would not admit Jesus back. Why? Because when the Jews scattered all over the world, the policy of the Jews is that if you have changed religion, like Jesus started his own Christianity, you are no longer a Jew. So you wouldn't be admitted back. Two, so the Jews now in Israel wouldn't call Jesus a Jew. Same to Karl Marx. Karl Marx crossed to Christianity. That is out. Two, the Israel are not in support of Jesus because they believe that they are a separate people. But people like Karl Marx looked at people in class term. The classes. You say, no, we don't look at people in terms of classes. No, we look at people in terms of the origin. We are the rest. So Marx is out. Marx is out on two grounds because of looking at people in class terms, and also Marx is out because he changed to Christianity. Same thing to Jesus. So they wouldn't. Unfortunately, our people, the Christians in Africa, still believe that Israel with Jesus. No way. Then Roger's comment of my ability to be president. Rogers, thank you for your view, but we have our ways of doing it. So
I saw that coming.
Don't hurry me into that.
Don't cause you problem.
We don't do it that way. We have our ways of doing it in the party.
See, that queue is a deadly queue.
So
And
I
if you
don't
know,
want.
You ask Mbabazi what happened when he washed his hands. and joined the queue.
You have
And
to
we-
state
and
it
message.
very fast.
And then, so I want to dissociate myself from that. On the question of negotiation, I have always said that the negotiators, if they want to negotiate, sometimes they call it national dialogue, national conference. I am seeing that there are some people who want to access power through windows. We have a constitutional way of deciding. Now, I put a disclaimer that if those who think they're negotiating are honest, let us pass a law in parliament for this negotiation. And we said, if you are part of the negotiating team, you will not get government job for 10 years. Then we see.
They will run away.
They run away because they want to negotiate out through the window. On the other point of NRM repenting, repent for what? Now this reminds me of later Biriga. Archbishop Ntagali had said we should repent. Then Biriga said, repent for what? Now, people had not heard Abiriga said that. Abiriga said it is Ntagali who should repent. And when Abiriga died and Ntagali got into problems, they replied Abiriga saying who should repent. And it was so interesting because the man had already died. He said, we told you it is him who should repent. So I wonder who you want to repent. I saw read Abiriga versus Ntagali. Now, a congressman talks about Ntare and UPC. You know, Ntare is such a good school congressman.
We built it, yes.
Are you aware that Ntare was built in 1956?
No, but we augmented it
Yes,
substantially.
in 1956, before
Yes.
UPC came to power.
Yeah.
But are you aware that the second UPC was basically run by Ntare? The second UPC.
That's why I said there's some fantastic Ntare
The
guys.
chairman UPC, Haji Wegulu, was an Obi. Chairman UPC and Obote. The speaker of UPC, Butajira, was Ntare. This guy of Kanyomozi, Ntare. Kamuntu professor, Ntare.
Yeah.
Honorable Kagurusi MP, Ntare. The entire UPC was run by
Yeah,
Ntare.
he mentions that there are some good people and also some other
Some terrible.
otherwise people. So I think that it's a two-way
So
traffic.
I wanted to make that so that
Thank you for recording the good Ntare guys.
It doesn't.
But the good
So
Ntare
that
guys
this
are
guy
UPC.
doesn't know Ntare is in NRM. No, Ntare has been there.
it is all
The
over.
entire UPC in Obote too, from the chairman to the speaker to the ministers to the powerful people. The Sir Richard Kaizoka, who was running the economy of this country, Professor Kap, everybody was in Ntare in UPC.
Okay.
There were even more Ntare in UPC than now.
Sadly, I cannot mention where Bombo Ame is, but let's limit it to that. Maybe
So,
we can say also
now,
Bombo Ame is in
to
UPDF.
your question
How,
of...
yeah, Parliament, how Parliament,
Ntare.
because it had become
Parliament.
Parliament, yeah, especially the 11th Parliament that is expiring
I think,
in May.
are you talking of this particular
Yeah,
parliament
sure, yeah.
or parliament as an institution?
We could begin with the 11th Parliament to give to act as a springboard, and then we bring it into a whole picture of Parliament as an institution.
Now, if you're talking of the parliament ending, whether it has met the expectations, it has its pros and cons. And I believe somebody must have documented it out there. Of course, if you ask the leadership, like the current speaker, she will list you a list of expectations that were met. But if you ask some other person, would also list you a list of expectations that were not met. But we should know that there are sentiments and feelings coming from the society questioning the institution of parliament. And I think we shouldn't take those sentiments for nothing. For example, there are sentiments which said, why do we even need it? So are we going to sweep such a comment under the carpet? Immediately we start seeing such sentiments, we should investigate and find out why. Why have people reached this point of even doubting the institution? So even when we zero on the expiring parliament, to tell Anita, list us what they would list things like, we have passed this number of bills, we have passed this budget, we have done this, we have done that. But before I even go further, the institution of parliament, if it is working properly, it should augment growth. It should augment production. It should crystallize to the oiling of the life of society. You know, it's like you have an engine of a car and you pour engine oil. The engine oil is to be sure that the dynamics, the rolling of machines is being run properly. So a good parliament would steer growth. A good parliament would steer production. A good parliament would steer harmony in society. It may be remote. It may not be directly linked, but it is that. And a bad parliament would lead to the opposite of what I've said. So we should take it now from the point that are these idle and redundant sentiments, or it is the behavior of the institution of parliament that has led to these sentiments? And how far will these sentiments go? Will it multiply or will it fade away if it is a few people? But the way I'm seeing, if we continue with the parliament to meet the expectation, this sentiment will increase. Because first of all, people are so dissatisfied with the accessibility to parliament as a member of parliament. People now know either you have the money or you even outright rig it. That is the perception of people.
It is either.
And it is unfortunate that this time round, very few people took to courts of law. Why? Is it because they generally believe that there was no anomalies? Or people have seen that even if you go to court, you won't get anything? Judiciary should be asking themselves. And sometimes judiciary actually call litigants clients. And how comes they don't have clients now? How comes they don't have litigants now? Is it because the parliamentary election went on smooth? At least for the president, we had it in court. But for the parliamentary, nothing. So it should be a warning.
Maybe people are waiting for the, in courts, the victors to be sworn in, and then they can petition around May. Maybe. We can
maybe, but I've not heard of any possible litigation. I have not heard the eager.
Yeah.
Is it that or the gazetting? I think by May it will be too late, I think.
Yeah, it is the gazetting.
There's a
day after gazetting. I am an advocate. By now I would have been getting clients. Or even if I'm not getting, I am in touch with very many advocates. They are not getting clients at all. In Lango, nearly nobody is going to court. And yet they are crying. People cry, but they are crying outside the judicial process. Now, meaning that the accessibility to parliament is in doubt. Now, because the accessibility is in doubt, people question it. Even the competency of the members there too. The competency of the members. People are increasingly getting lesser and lesser members of parliament that you can throw a topic and it can address. For example, you throw Iran-American war. You get few of them even.
You see, Honorable, the irony of this entire issue, for instance, as you mentioned, goes back to you. And this is why you are on record for having now majority members of parliament. When you say, and when you look at the substance, for instance, don't you think you are partially blamed for also such quality, the quality of the members of parliament, because you had your primaries, you had them go through by God's grace also, and by the voters' grace as well, your majority members became legislators. And you seem to also equally want to, to interrogate the quality of such legislators.
You know, we have always said in NRM that the internal democratic mechanism is a growing mechanism. We have not said we have absolute truth that that is the best. Some people are even arguing whether we should pick candidates.
And pick.
Yes, and pick. Maybe unpicking would be better. For example, some people are arguing that why don't we write a checklist and give marks? Some people are asking, how comes when 100 people apply for a scholarship in Harvard, and Harvard is picking 5, they pick 5 correctly? To the extent that even if you appeal, why have you picked Rogers and left me? They'll tell you the checklist.
Yeah.
For example, in Harvard, they'll ask you, you don't know, they said your age. You don't know what age the scholarship wants. You may be too old or too young for that scholarship. If you are at the right age, you score 5 marks. Your class of degree, is it first class, second class? You score. You know, they have score marks. And the computer generates there and then, and they pick the best candidate.
Even when you appeal, they are transparent enough.
They are transparent to show you here, you scored this one scored this one scored this. So we're even thinking, why wouldn't we devise that system in NRM? Can't we fail to get agreeable checklist and say you score there and there, and then we get a flag bearer? Are we? But because right now we are boxed into a corner of that mindset, that democratic mindset that give everybody. So what do? You heard the MPs went and met, the current MPs who lost flags, went and met Museveni in Arua, and they pleaded to the president that, Your Excellency, we are robbed, and we are the people, people want us. Then the president said, how do I know people want you?
How did they vote otherwise?
The result was declared. We open up for petitions. In the election commission of NRM, please take your appeal there. It was ruled against you. The president even said, criminal cases don't rot. If you kill now and rent to Malawi, if you came back after 10 years, the case is there. So if you are sure that Awich had got 60 votes and they added him 0 to make 600, that is a crime, that is forgery. Can you bring me the case? I now proceed criminally. Nobody brought. So the president said, I have no choice but to go with this one who have been declared. Because you are not bringing me criminal evidence, you are not bringing me, you went to appeal and the tribunal, and you lost in the tribunal. So the fact that we are having this doesn't mean that we are waterproof sure, leave alone hair-proof, that it is the best. No, it's a developing democracy. It's a developing mechanism. And you see, we have used it, I think, only twice. And I'm not sure whether you used it. So it is trial. It is a growing democracy, and we are trying. Therefore, you can exonerate us, because we also are trying, trying a democratic, internal democratic system.
As a party, you would wish to have very, very sober, intelligent legislators.
That is our dream.
The other, save for democracy, where, of course, people will vote who they
who they want. That is a democracy. So, and democracy with the capacity to manage. Because you may find that there are smart fluid who can flow up the process, and the capacity, knowing this is a vast election, it also tests our capacity to manage. Okay. The test. So the expectations of Parliament is that the expectations is in Parliament in general speech is that a good Parliament steers progress. A good Parliament steers production. A good Parliament steers peace and harmony in society. You can see that this is a good Parliament.
So what do you see?
What we see now is that for a long time, Parliament has impeded production. You have heard the cry of President Museveni on the Bujagali thing. Yeah. By stopping that, you are stopping production. By Parliament choosing priorities upside down, you have seen where they keep fighting with the executive over budgetary priorities. Budgetary priorities, and setting their terms and conditions in terms of salary. So all those have had effect on economic growth, on the development, on the harmony in society.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Awich. Let me run to Professor Bargayoma, with the highlights of the expectations, of course, or rather the roles of Parliament. If we could begin with the oversight and, of course, budgeting. You have seen, or rather read about the previous parliaments, if I should use that term. What is your judgment?
My judgment, I'll start with the historical. From the first parliament to around the 6th parliament of the Ben Watcher, it was a curve going up. Even the 7th, it was a curve progressively. Because even then, if I've been studying them, even by character, even by cream, because if you go to see the personalities in those parliament, in that parliament, there were people in the highest level cream of society. And of course, that time I will be frank, even the intellectuals were, it was taken as a regard and a high score sheet, like my mentor said here. However, where I disagree with him is that where he says the problem is when the 7th parliament criticized the president many times, and I think that's when also the other powerful people started being with real debate. That then the president brought up a system that actually started speaking bad words against Parliament, and he said we should have those people who sleep. And I think at that time he hadn't just gotten the slogan of fishermen, but that's what he wanted. He said he started introducing, actually, that's when he started moving around the constituencies campaigning for sleepy MPs and the ones who could easily just ride in. And he actually promoted that. And him, I think he owes us apologies, and also now society. Because he promoted it, the NRM promoted it, they said they want Quack, they wanted Kawukumi, so long as it supports their position. And actually, that's even when I saw the achievement of the present parliament, is it 11? They say, we move bills because they can move actually 4 bills in one city because there is no opposition, and that's the credit. And they say, you see how many? And in any case, politically, the 11th, and I doubt for these people who say that President Museveni will, is it Mao, he has never had a smooth sailing as in the 11th parliament. And I don't think for him as a person he wants to change it. Everything was moving very fast for in his, even bills which you would see are anti-society, like the UPDF thing was moving very fast. But it was because they intentionally prepared society to start having funny leadership. If you go to see from the Constituency Assembly, CA, the mindset of citizens were that from whichever county they were taking the best. Yeah. Every county was like taking their cream because they are waiting for them to be represented. Like Kashari, I would talk about Kashari. They would choose the best in Kashari because they knew in the end that person will be identified with the constituency. So, but over time, if you go to see, because of that promotion from the leader and from the NRM that for us we don't sieve, anybody can come in free entry and exit, they even started now losing even their historical members to quacks and mafias from even other parts. Because by the way, the people who have destroyed NRM are not its historicals. They are these quack members coming in from elsewhere. And so then, when they changed the mindset of the society, then corruption also came in. Now corruption, now the system aided the corruption system. Let me tell you, when these, because for me I call them my father, when they had come in 86, 1 million shilling was too much for them. When you could take 1 million, it was too much, I think they would even fidget to share it, to have that allowance and everything. For now, the typical guys, these ones, MPs, you see your NRM cadre, even 10 billion is too little because one, they are building arcades. An arcade is about 100 billion. So the moment they hit 20 billion, it is nothing, just that is the ground floor. So the corruption changed the mindset that now, and when it started being tolerated by their leadership, now the calculation was, and I'll give you, a person would go gather funds. If I can steal 10 billion from the treasury and take 2 billion to my people back home, and I give them, is it electric poles and bore holes, this is a national thief. He has stolen from the treasury, but at home he will be popular forever. That is what we are continuously.
I think this reminds me of the current Speaker of Parliament while attending a Thanksgiving ceremony in Katovu, Ruwengo district, and boldly told the electorate that had come to that event. And I think I remember we had that discussion, and she was like, so as long as one steals and brings and eats with the people, and people were very happy. I mean,
has she ever been disciplined by her party?
It's on record.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
For us lawyers, we want to quote the facts. Are you saying it is her? To the best of my recollection, it was Honorable Kinyamatama.
No.
It
is not. It's on record. Only that I don't know if quickly in these remaining minutes whether our producer could get that clip. On record, herself on record. In fact, I could even quote the words. She said, "Muzei has heard your cries, and when you are beating your own, you beat." And of course, it's Honorable Kasolo who was translating the English version of Right Honorable Anita. But proceed.
Yeah, and so that I choose my time. So they promoted it in democracy. One, she has never been apprehended or even called for a disciplinary committee for such utterances. And they are continuing. You saw the Mabati thing in that kind of parliament. And actually, the top leadership. And it has never been seen that they even stopped debate. How can you stop debate on an issue which touches the speaker because you're the speaker? So there were many compromises which were tolerated by the system. But, like he said, I give advice. I studied the South African parliamentary system. If NRM could borrow from it, it could reverse this kind of... because personally, like he said, we don't have faith in this parliament. They are just the traders and the people who want to get out their money, and it is going to be disaster to the country. But what they do in South Africa, for example, the NRM, all parties, and I recommend it for Uganda, all parties, before the national election, they go and vote for people of national character. So when they vote these members who they believe are members, like every party brings, if we have 500 members of our parliament, each party would then go to their delegates conference and choose the best, whether they feel which year is the best, and the top, like from number 1 should be your best, up to 500 in that descending order. Then you deposit that to the Register of Parliament. Then you go for a national election. So if ANC and Honorable which went to do that benchmarking in South Africa, I remember one time, I don't know why they don't borrow that. So when ANC gets 50% then of the national poll, then they go to their list and pick 50% of that, which would be 250 quality men from number 1 to 250. So that alone, in their system, a member of parliament does not go to their place of birth to be voted, because that is, you have to be a member of, you have to have national character to be a member of parliament, because you are legislating and lobbying for the country. Why should we subject Honorable Witch to his village. Now these people, they are choosing a village leader. They are not national leaders. I'm a more national leader than most of these members of parliament, because they know only village stuff. So what happens is, right now we are choosing village leaders instead of national leaders of national character. And those are the images we see. Yeah? We are seeing goons in parliament. We are seeing a promotion of so it is absurd for the country. And I call on people like Comrade Awich, who keep going and benchmarking better system, that don't bring us, I mean, it was NRM which has promoted this kind of parliament and parliamentary behavior, because they know how to pick. And I would also say, if we went by the scorecard, we would then have genuine leaders. And even the leadership of parliament itself is wanting. So this is what we should debate as a nation, and we should reverse. Actually, we shouldn't go to polls with the same system of electing MPs, because one, the leadership corrupted the public, but also the public is also to blame because of the type of leadership they've resigned to get, and because they have been compromised. And also they notice that maybe their vote means nothing, and they've just decided to lower their standard. But good enough, history shows it has ever been done in the CA, whereby actually at one time they would know that to go to parliament, you had to go to be a lawyer. But right now, even the non-lawyers, like, it's more of businessmen. It's money which is the biggest contributor to coming to parliament, more than the debate and intellectual skills. So that is what my take is. We don't expect anything from this. We just expect deterioration of standard and debates. And so it is very unfortunate for the country.
Save for the NRM contribution, as you mentioned, how do you bring, why do you mention that one of the problems is also leadership itself?
The leadership of parliament clearly even relegated its role to be a check of the executive. And they've said, for us, we just a rubber stamp. And by declaring, yeah? And even if you see the type of like subjection, and I'm not saying it's only to parliament, even the judiciary. Yeah? I mean, even if you have been appointed or favored by a certain leader, but at one time, to protect the institution you represent, you cannot bow that low. We've seen it with the leadership of parliament, we've seen it the leadership of the judiciary, and it is very unfortunate, because these, in the real formation of our constitution, they are supposed to check the executive. So the executive feels so comfortable, unchecked, in that the executive has finished those two, and it has gone to the only place which we had the spiritual one, and they've called them, and so there is no checking of power. If you can check even the powers of Lubaga, what are we going to have as a nation? So really, it is unfortunate, and it is out of respect that the executive should respect the powers of parliament. Unfortunately, I think just like they say, ESO, the parliament sold its powers and traded for just popularity of some leaders who want to just stay, but it was not in the interest of the country. And judiciary hasn't lost it completely, but I see, like Honorable Which said, people have resigned to the judiciary and petitioning, and those two work hand in hand, the three actually, but the two which are checking the executive have relegated, sold their powers, traded them, and so I don't even, for me, I wouldn't be comfortable to call these new members of parliament honorable, especially by the conduct of their behavior, if they are to continue like 11th Parliament.
Okay, thank you, Professor Valgayomwe. Mr. Joseph Ochieno, take it from there, and you give us your view on our parliament and whether or not it's living its the expectations of our citizens.
You know, when you invited me here, okay, it's I'm an expected regular, but when you confirmed the topic, just like Comrade Wich was saying, we have a huge amount of demands on our times and priorities, and I was being almost I was beginning to get quite emotionally exhausted because some other people badly wanted me this evening. But I thought I must fulfill as ever, come this end. And my journey here is 36 kilometers. But I said, no, we have to do this, and it's a fantastic panel. Now, looking at the topic, I was wondering what exactly I'm going to discuss and why. I can tell you that this topic presupposes that we have an executive which is real, legitimate, functioning, independent. Okay, executive should also be independent, responsible, and focused on national leadership with the legitimacy that it may have been granted by the citizenry. And that side by side with that, we've got a functioning judicial system that is functioning, and that we have you guys and the fourth estate who are holding all these other three arms to account, and most effectively so. And that the fifth estate, who would ideally be the first estate with the citizenry, have been sufficiently capacitated, and they've got the ability to check you guys, including you guys, the fourth estate, meaning the media, and if they shout, you know, public opinion influences, including your editorial directions. Unfortunately, in Uganda, that doesn't apply. In terms of role of Parliament, the straightforward thing is you expect them to be doing the oversight. You expect them to doing budgeting. You expect them to look at some of the things that hold us back, traffic contradictions, you know, regional contradictions and challenges, you know, legislate on immigration, legislate on key things, and appropriately, you know, allocate resources to care for our citizens and therefore do the services. I'm not necessarily sure whether they're necessarily the deliverers, as Comrade Rich is saying, but to the extent that they are the ones who pour in the money, that is true. But number three, in the likely event that we had a functioning parliament, it's also true that legislators, and Rogers is pulling out from South Africa, but if I brought into the other democracies where parliaments work, members of parliament are not supposed to be involved in people's trouble, people's school fees, and people's mattresses. Their job is to make sure that whatever they do as part of legislators, enabling environment is created in which jobs are created, that legislation that has come directly out of them impacts on the quality of wages that come out, and that institutions, academic institutions, in this case, have facilities, including legislating that, well, we shall up taxes and make sure that a critical amount goes to the Ministry of Education, so no child in a public school needs to take a mattress. But they could even also go ahead and say that since they're a few billionaires and some of them are mafia, we can say that, well, you know, we can, if certain parents, you can means taste some of these and say, look, you know, children whose parents earn less than a certain threshold. I know this is a bit of a stretch, but I'm talking about the role of our parliament. You know, you don't have to, and maybe if your parents are quite clearly well-known professors, you know, you you don't meet the criteria. Things like that. That sort of really should be the role of Parliament, including maybe determining whether or not we need to continue having diplomatic relationship with Israel and America. I'm just stretching this, considering the fact that they continue with the brutality that we thought had ended up with the apartheid South Africa, or indeed the end of the Cold War. Today, the clear position is that we really don't have an independent National Assembly. We have an assembly which is basically an extension of the executive. To the extent that if you look at, and the leaders there are people whom I regard Anite, Thomas is actually a friend, Taebwa, and they're very good guys, in their respective ways. But it's very difficult not to suggest that what they're doing is basically to push an agenda of what Mr. Museveni wants and to push an agenda of NRM. Now that's the parliamentary leadership of Parliament. And if really it's from that perspective, and granted, they are from the ruling NRA, but really, Parliament should really not be a partisan organization. It should not be from the region. Parliamentarians, in part of what Rogers is saying, you go there as an NRA legislator, but when you are there in the assembly of colleagues, you are looking at for instance, legislative budgeting, and you're looking at how much what we need to be able to do to knock deficit. You don't necessarily have to be an economist. You may bring in a moral argument and compel, the Minister of Finance, NRM Minister of Finance, to prove to you that if whatever position they do take is going to impact on your voters, or indeed on the voters as you last saw them in Kabong, how extremely poor and struggling they were. That's what really should be that. But now, whoever goes to Parliament, if you go through what Rogers has already said, if you really don't have 500 million shillings, you can't think of wanting to become a legislator. And that's minimum. Of course, many of them were going through with the 5 billion, particularly depending on the richer areas where they've got some deputy Jesus from those end of the world, some places. So, huge amount of money. This Parliament will not change. That the leaders of Parliament are extremely partisan, and that this Parliament has been so substantially corrupted that in a manner in which is unprecedented, the last two parliaments, unprecedented. The UPC parliaments, Obote 1 and Obote 2, you would not in any way pick one iota of inappropriate conduct, one by the parliamentary leaders, or indeed in this case perhaps even by members of Parliament. And so this is where we are. And then you move on to parliamentary commissioners, people who should actually be people's checks and balances. But now they've ended up being experts in patronage. Commissioners are given money, thanking them to do work. And I'm saying, what about the teachers? What about the head teachers? Really, surely somebody should be able to pick Sister Letitia, the head teacher of Nagongera Girls, who has consistently kept my local girls' school to compete with the rest of the country. And maybe her school alone has made Tororo not be a laughing stock. And her school has got more Division 1s than 3 times of some of the northern and Karamoja districts put together, kind of stuff. So it will not change in the coming assembly. I think it's going to be worse. The issue should be really that what should citizens do in order to detox themselves from people who are basically money mongers in the National Assembly.
There when we ask a way forward from each one of you towards the end. So in your view, you do not think that the Parliament as an institution has lived to the expectations of...
No, it has been disastrous. And interestingly, my colleagues here were referring to the CA. The CA was an assembly of decent guys predominantly, but the CA was with political parties banned. So I'm very critical about it. I really don't recognize it as a parliament. But of course, many of the stars in the CA were predominantly UPC, and and I'm delighted by that. But I mean some other people who had come, maybe say from BP, and even some people from NRA. They're generally good people. But I'm saying overall, I don't recognize it from that perspective in terms of their roles. And why I'm saying that is basically the moral compass, so that I don't appear as if I'm contradicted or I'm making a political point. I'm simply saying structural as a system is actually not. And finally, Francis Butajira, thanks to Ntere School, he was the presiding officer of Obodu Parliament. Mr. Speaker, keep on repeating it. Nobody will touch that. Because in other words, the speakers of the time, they're like almost like the bishops, in the traditional sense. And the legislators, members of parliament, with the power and taunting speakers who say order, order, order. When these guys come out, they're supposed to be the voices of reason. They're supposed to be the voice of reason, exemplary leadership, and things like that. These guys, when they come to a community, that's why we call them honorable. Really, are their conducts those of honorable people? Absolutely not at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ocheno Joseph. Now, coming to Honorable Awich Pona, I'll begin with a precise one. When did this habit of some legislators start doing what is not legislative? And here, I mean, I've given you a honorable member, and it's on record, to be honest, for crying out loud. But this gentleman was deep in the grave, digging, of course, with his locals. We have seen so many of your colleagues, the three of you, your friends who are in parliament, buying ambulances, serving porridge, paying people's fees. By the way, just lately I saw the Right Honorable Prime Minister serving chunks of beef in some but of course, yeah, sure. But when did these legislators lose the honorable in them from legislation to now doing charity? Should we call it charity?
Well, we can look for it, but with precision it will be difficult. But I'll answer the question. But let me make two things clear. I had talked of parliament, a good parliament spurring development.
Yeah.
It can do it by extension through the legislation they make. The laws we make is not just to prohibit don't and do's and don't and do's, but a good law spurs development, spurs production, and it is a multiplicity of laws, not one law. Therefore, a good parliament would be reflected in that way. The other thing I wanted to say is Roger said that counties by then, not the constituencies now,
The ones of CA.
they would elect their best. I remember when in Tari School, where a very good OB was elected, even when he was dead. You remember? Norman, the husband of Kellen Kayong. Norman, he had died, but he was such a good OB of Ontari School that for us we left school and kept telling people that is propaganda. Otherwise, you
Is
vote.
that the constituency of Honorable Kazora? I think that's the saga where they voted a dead body and the like.
Yes, and the Bobby was so good. He was so good that he won in the death.
Yeah.
And with a big majority. He was such a good OB and he won. So that was a time when the counties would select their best. Now, to the question of when did this start? You know, when you talk of when, you mean a time frame. So I'm not sure with precision, but I could guess circumstances that led to when. Many people have believed that when the legislation of which was part of the multi-party project, that when you contest, when you're a civil servant, don't come back. That law prohibited so many people. Because of the dynamics in the politics, a permanent secretary, a commissioner in a ministry, a professor in a government university will not want to risk himself.
The job and contest.
So that alone cut the competent people by nearly half. That law cut half.
80%.
80% of competent people. And therefore, those the mediocres
Who
found now
were
a
unemployed.
free ground. Found a free ground. And one of their first card they check when you come to contest, the first thing they see, has he resigned? Has he? And they even intimidate you with that. So
did you resign in
that
time?
law itself is believed to have cut a big chunk of competent people, and it left the ground for those who have nothing to lose. For you, you are a commissioner, minister of water, you come, you lose. Somebody on the street who has nothing to lose, he comes and dances around. So, as I said, with no precision of when the deteriorated started, that is part of the legislation. And President Museveni had warned that you people, you want this multi-party of yours, you want to move away from the movement system. Remember when we come, the law will say, you already petitioned, you went for this party. How then do we trust that when you come to civil service, you will be fair to people? Because you already manifested your petitionship. You are a permanent secretary, you went and stood on NUP. How come? Will you come and now do for everybody?
When you lose, will you come back?
Or you are permanent secretary, you went and stood on NRM. When you come back as a PS, how fair are you to NUP people? So, this law cut half of the people, and it gave room to people who have nothing to lose and play around. The other time, with the lack of precision of time, is that this is believed to have started with a time when it was clear that Parliament could determine their own emoluments. President Museveni is on record saying he was against that heap of money. And he said at that time there are so many wars to fight that he didn't want to fight the legislators. He left them to determine their thing. Now when people saw that it's actually remuneration, you go there, determine on your own, people saw it as business. So this, now everybody had to do anything. Remember that a Bank of Uganda governor earns nearly the same money with a member of parliament, with an equivalent of senior 6. Not only should you have senior 6, but just have the equivalent. Not only should you have senior 6, but just have the equivalent. And you earn like
pile your certificates,
and you
weigh them.
You don't even need to pile them. Just put one equivalent. Just one equivalent.
You earn as a governor of Bank
And
of
then you
Uganda.
earn like Governor Bank of Uganda. So it changed things. So again, without lack of precision of when, is that it is not that the voters who wanted money from the candidates. I want this clear. I have studied a case study. In my part of the country, it is not the voters who said we wanted the money. It is the weak candidates
Who gives out money?
who started to outsmart the competent ones. Let me give something. Little did they know that they're starting a culture that is irreversible. Do a research and find out. It's not the egg and the hen question. Which one came first? Is it the egg? Is it the hen? This one is clear. It is the weak candidates who started giving. The hen, we can debate. Is it the egg which came first and produced the hen? Or it is the hen which came first and produced the egg? For this one, I can tell you that the weak candidates, to compensate for their weakness, they are the ones who started giving money, giving salt, giving what, giving this. Little did they know it is now going to be a right and a demand from the voter. So with these three, you can now guess. As I said earlier, you cannot tell with precision when it started, but indicative occurrences, indicative happenings can take you to when this started.
Okay. I think for purposes of saving time, I will ask you to use 1 minute with the closing remarks, then I will cross and close with Mr. Joseph Ochieno. With this 1 minute is, okay, how do we move forward? What do we do as a country?
We need, as a way forward, we need to study the parliamentary system. like
You're learning,
like
you're picking
yes,
Professor
what
Rogers'
what Rogers was saying is in South Africa, but the same thing in Rwanda here. How do Rwandans pick the MPs? They actually you get the percentage of your vote, and do you know through the Rwandan system, it is not automatic that RPF actually has a majority in parliament. Did you know that? No, it is actually, if you check the parliament of Rwanda, it is not RPF with absolute majority, because their system is nearly the South African system. So we may have to go to competency test to bring parliament back to its order.
Okay.
And I don't see how it would worry us in NRM, because we would still believe we have the competent people anyway.
Okay, thank you. Let's cross to Professor. Professor, kindly use 2 minutes and then 3 minutes to Mr. Joseph Ochieng.
Yeah,
the way forward now, a precise way forward.
Yeah, the precise way forward, and I'm glad it is being brought by a director at NRM Secretariat, because the ruling party has the ability to introduce a character. So if that competency test started with the NRM, then actually, because they have about 90% of the candidates, if they just brought us quality candidates, then the country would not be bleeding. The competency test, the sieve, should start with the secretariat, with the NRM secretariat. They should be that sieve, and I agree with it. And
will I qualify?
Definitely, even for speaker. And it should start even with the speaker race.
For secretariat.
Let the competent, because this thing of like the culture, how do you keep a culture? He also went to CCM. How do you keep a culture when you bring members who are just 2 years old to lead you? This, I don't know who is advising NRM. Yep. You are bringing quacks, you are introducing people who don't have a culture, who don't have a spirit, who just are mafia, just traders. So that alone is a problem. Is a problem with the NRM. So NRM should actually, at the level of leadership, it is done everywhere, including the churches, the bishops, in institutions, the banks. You cannot come in just 2 months or 3 months and then you take up leadership. So that is the way forward for me, for better leadership.
Thank you, Professor. Mr. Joseph Ochieng, kindly use 3 minutes
now, as I said,
with the way forward.
I think it's really about the quality of people per se, but that is one of them. I suggest that is actually the leadership, the national leadership. If we compartmentalize the systems from the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, the fourth estate, and the citizenry, the five different kind of estates, and how they are conducting themselves, and the kind of holistic leadership that every wing presents. If you, the fourth estates, you're basically critical guys doing your right jobs, checking all the others, and the judiciary is doing their bit, and the executive is being a responsible executive, you know, the National Assembly will come out in its own right. But of course, what my colleagues are talking about is this, they call it the party list system. It's a generally very fair system that is akin to proportional representation.
The parliamentary
yes. Well, yeah, these guys came here, they doofed to kill the parliamentary
system. Is it the exact one that you had in 1980?
No, we had.
They want introducing it.
We had a parliamentary system in 1980. The UK has a parliamentary system. The South African system is parliamentary, except, as I said, with embedded element of proportional representation, with the party list where the popularity of individuals come in. It's true that actually, if that applies, I would have been a member of parliament since 2006. Definitely, I would have been, because I don't know how would have been more than number 2, 3 every other now and again, possibly at worst 5 for UPC. So I know that, but I mean, the thing is, what do we do as a country? I think that we need to have a conversation about review of parliament. The question of, I know it's a conclusion, but the question of whether or not people should resign the public civil service positions, I think that's a commonsensical issue that really by and large, I don't disagree with, but it has got a negative impact, as Comrade Rich is saying. But I think it's very difficult to say that somebody leaves public service, maybe a senior civil servant comes, stands for parliament, and then returns, particularly for a partisan political party, without initially, first of all, resigning their positions. I think that in principle, in our case, even in UPC, if you're a UPC civil servant, or perhaps even an elected leader as a district chairperson, you ought to be able to resign that position first before proceeding. It's just about a build-up of democracy. It works when the system is there. I think really the issue is money and how it has come and how we're able to do it. I think that going forward, we need to be able to have a debate around the size of Parliament, the enumeration for Parliament, and the role of Parliament in basically allocating money for themselves. I think those are three things that we need to very urgently do, including reducing the size of Parliament, reviewing the members of the salaries for members of Parliament, and whether or not who determines really the enumeration for these people. This is a debate that we can have, and responsible members of Parliament can be subject to that debate, and they can contribute to what Roger and I try to push.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Our viewers, lawyers say, I have nothing useful to add. So I also declare that I have nothing useful to add onto their submissions. See you some other time.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.